Okay guys, welcome to this video where we will cover the game between Offerspill players Magnus Carlsen and Aryan Tari. They are both playing in the Norway Chess tournament in Stavanger. This is round 8. Magnus with the white pieces manages to beat Aryan Tari. Magnus, the current world champion in chess, against the former junior world champion in chess. So this is a real heavyweight encounter. But we'll see that this turned out to be a trademark Magnus Carlsen win. E4, E5, we'll just go right ahead to the game. Bishop B5, a rule Lopez. A6, Bishop A4, and instead of playing F5 as he did against his last game against Jan Krzysztof Duda, Aryan goes for Knight F6, which is probably more positionally sound and the theoretically recommended move. Castles, Bishop E7, lots of opportunities here, of course, to vary. D3 from Magnus, a slow but steady opening choice. B5, Bishop B3, D6, and now A4. Lots of theory to get booked up on here, guys. So feel free to use any opening explorer or opening 3 if you'd like to follow the opening in more detail. We'll just go right through it quickly here in the video. Bishop d7, c3. The point is, of course, to expand in the center, but also allow the bishop to go back to c2 if necessary, as we see in the game. That thanks to a4, bishop a2 is a more natural retreat for this bishop. So d4 is the plan here, knight f5. Of course, you don't want to lose the pair bishop, especially this bishop, the light squared bishop for white in the Ruy Lopez, is very important, as it already points to the weak f7 square, and is very important when trying to get control of the center. So bishop a2 is the way to go here. c5 from Aryan. Quite typical this play from black as well. As we can see, it gets control over the center but loses control over the d5 square, so this is a trade-off. Bishop g5. What Magnus wants to do here is to get more control over d5, so as we can see, this bishop doesn't really contribute to the d5 square or the control over d5, but this knight does for black. So this trade-off might be beneficial for white at some point later in the game, as we will see. Castles, knight bd2, rook b8, might threaten b4, might threaten to take on a4. That's why Magnus designs that enough is enough, ab, and rook e1. Protecting this and maybe allowing the classical maneuver knight f1. b4, knight c4, suddenly there was a square available for the knight on c4. We of course exchange, and another exchange on c3 and queen c7, and this is looking to be at least to my eyes quite comfortable for white. I mean, black doesn't really have any play here, so the next couple of moves for black are crucial, because he might end up in a passive and positionally not desirable position. So black needs to be sharp and on point here. However, bishop b5 from black is too compliant, I think, because this allows white to go ahead with his main strategy in this position, which is to establish control over d5. And now takes. Bishop f6 is the star move of the game, because now we can see that Magnus's plan of ending up with a dominant knight against a passive bishop has come true. Knight d2, and this is of course the plan, to get the knight to the d5 square, in which the black bishop doesn't control. So we will have a dominant knight against a passive bishop type of position, which is positionally ABC for both players, but not so easy to avoid in practice against a so good player positionally as Magnus is. So this is a strategy that started with his 11th move, bishop g5, as we mentioned earlier in the video, and concludes here after bishop takes f6, bishop takes, and knight d2. Queen c6, queen a4, a small pin, knight c4. The knight is of course en route to d5, bishop e7, protecting this pawn, g3. There's not a lot of tempting moves for black here, and white just waits to see whether the knight should stay on c4 to pressure d6, or if it should go to d5 immediately. White is spoiled for choice really. King g2, just improving the position ever so slightly, very nicely done by Magnus. Bishop f8, queen f3, rook b3, but this is easy to protect, rook c1. And after activating his rook on the 7th rank and exchanging a pair of rooks, which is of course also advantageous for white, as black had a doubled rook formation in the b file, it's nice to exchange one of them off the board. So we are left with a rook each. h5. Also, black can do less damage when he has one rook instead of two doubled in the b file. So this is just Magnus trying to remove all possibilities for counterplay. Rook a8. And now finally we see the end of the road for black here when the knight is coming to d5. Trying to exchange the rook away, but rook a7, establishing control over the 7th rank. Rook b8. Magnus is just improving his position ever so slightly every move. Aryan doesn't really have anything to do here. Rook d7. And this is something that can happen against good players, right? I mean, this has nothing to do with Aryan playing a bad tournament or a bad game. Of course, he did made some inaccuracies in this game, of course, but this is something that can happen against Magnus, even for the best of players such as Aryan. f6, g5, could also have done something like queen h3, I guess. He did in the next move after f5. Of course, couldn't take on g5 because the bishop is hanging on f8, so f5, establishing a new pin and also securing himself a square on h6. Rook f7, and now a move like c4 would put black in some sort of zugzwang. There's no move that can keep the status quo for black here. Every move that black makes will make the position worse. But Magnus decides to go for a more picturesque and beautiful win. Rook e8, queen takes, queen h6, king g8 takes, and now if bishop g7, then the knight f6 decides the game immediately. There's a fork, but also if the king moves to h8, there's a mate on h7. Aryan decided to play king h8, now knight f6, threatening the queen and threatening mate on g8, forced a resignation from Aryan. And Magnus won the offerspiel game of the tournament here with the white pieces. He won also with the black pieces, so 2-0 for Magnus against his teammate Aryan Tari. And Magnus, of course, now in the lead in the Norway Chess tournament after 8 rounds.